Welcome to a Brettless episode of The List. I am Jordan. I am joined by Addison here. I was told to find the biggest Titans fan I could find, and for the first time, we are live in person for The List. So, Addison, how does it feel to be a Titans fan and be the first live member of The List?
That's what I've always wanted to do, is be a live member of a how many followers podcast is this?
I think we're up to 1,200.
There we go. 1,200 people can see my smiling face.
Actually, we're 33 seconds in, and you can see at the top that 0 people currently can see your face.
God.
But there will be people in the future here that are going to watch back and are going to hear that they are the only person that's currently listening to this.
Yeah.
So before the season, we saw the Dolphins are playing the Titans on Monday Night Football, and I think we were both a little excited, being that the last time we saw, I guess now Will Levis win a football game was here.
Yeah, that was fun.
So how did we get here to the point where the Titans are looked at as one of the worst teams in football?
Okay, I'm going to give you the abridged version and the slightly longer version. The abridged version, if you want to count just weeks 1 and 2, William Donovan Levis and Nicholas Petit-Frere. Defense was the best defense in football. Will Levis throws a pick 6 to a team that got 138 yards of offense. Not ideal.
Not ideal.
Special teams. So 3 answers. Special teams. Had a block punt for a touchdown that game. And then we gave up another boneheaded turnover against the Jets that took points off the board. Another block punt that game when they didn't even rush it. They just brought one guy and got it and blocked it. And they scored off that drive. So William Donovan Levis, special teams, and Nicholas Petit-Frere is basically your answer. 8 sacks against the Packers. We couldn't stop Malik Willis. We don't got to talk about that.
So from a Will Levis standpoint, obviously you mentioned that he's a big problem here. Is it learning a new scheme, or has he just been a bad quarterback?
It's a little bit of both. Now you got to take into account, 1, this is his 5th different offense in 5 seasons, or 6 in 6 seasons. 2, our O-line especially on the right side is just like bad. Like it's bad. The left side, Jason Latham is one of the already a top 20 tackle in football. He's a stud. Skoronski is playing to about average. You'd expect better out of a first-round pick, especially upper half, but he's playing better than he was last year when he came off the appendectomy. Lloyd Cushenberry's been about average to slightly above average. You signed him to be a top 5 center. He's been about average, but the right side has been just ridiculous. Nicholas Petit-Frere gave up 9 pressures against the Jets, and then gave up another whopping 7 last week. Then got benched for Jalen Duncan, who ended up just carrying the
Jalen Duncan's young, so maybe he can come in. He played right tackle.
No, he can't. He can't. Don't worry, he can't. He can't. He brought in. He carried the torch for a horrible tackle play right after.
So, is there any hope for the Titans?
There's hope.
Short term,
if you can get to slightly below average right tackle play. Levis has been solid in clean pocket. His biggest issue is dealing with pressure. Well, guess what? We give up the most in the NFL. So, the plays that he's made, the really boneheaded ones, have been under pressure. So, he's always going to have that playmaker mentality. He doesn't really sense pressure well, which is, in the old days, you want that quarterback standing there and throwing the pocket, but now you need that guy that can escape, manage. Brady was never going to scramble, but he managed pressure really well. Obviously, he's not going to be Tom Brady, but there is hope because when he gets protection, when things work out, he's been good this year. He's legitimately been good, one of the more accurate quarterbacks, but it's over 50% of snaps he's getting pressure at this point.
And that's one thing we talked about a couple weeks ago when it came to Tua, even before the injury. It's in the NFL, you can make a bad play in the NFL. You can't make a back-breaking play in the NFL.
Yeah.
You can't make, like the Tua throw against Buffalo in the drive before he got hurt on the 3rd down when he went to scramble and threw the pick 6. And it seems like so far through 3 weeks, Will Levis has made one of those back-breaking plays every week.
It's been consistent. Even last week against the Packers, it wasn't an under-pressure play, but he saw off corners and he determined he was going to throw a hitch to D-Hop to get him going. And part of it was on D-Hop because D-Hop runs his hitch and then kind of turns it towards the sideline like our fallout that we do. But you're throwing at Jair Alexander, who just sat there, knew the hitch was coming, just sat there flat-footed and jumped into their house. It's just one of those things where you see the guy sitting there flat-footed. Confirm what you see posting now, but we talk about with our quarterback all the time.
Yeah, and you talk about, obviously, Will Levis, but flipping over to the Dolphins side of football, the Dolphins actually about 10 minutes before we went live announced that Tyler Huntley will be starting on Monday night. The Tyler Huntley era in Miami has begun. I don't think it's much of a surprise when the other 2 options are a broken Skylar Thompson or Tim Boyle.
Yeah.
But what do you think from knowing the Titans defense and knowing that you're going to have a quarterback coming in with a limited playbook, that is probably going to be asked to use his scramble ability all the time. And throughout that game, what do you see as the matchup for the Titans defense against Tyler Huntley?
Well, it's one of those where we saw a similar situation last week. Now, Malik got a little more time than Snoop did in Green Bay, but we didn't look very good against Malik. We couldn't tackle him. We couldn't get him down the backfield. And then he made some good throws. He looked the best he's looked as an NFL player. You'd like to think that you got a distinct advantage there. I think the big matchup that we can really attack is really that interior D line of ours with Tavondre Sweat, even Sebastian Jones stays playing well, but Jefferson was one of the best D tackles in the NFL against your size Aaron Brewer and your guards Eichenberg and all that. I think you're not going to be able to go up the middle. We're going to have the middle push, and Snoop's going to have to roll out. Your run game's going to hit more off tackle, pitch toss plays and stuff like that. The issue is we had issues with that last week. Now they didn't run the ball in true run game, but the QB read game was killing us. The scrambles from Malik were killing us. So it kind of seems like a rewind of last week. So it kind of like hearing Snoop start, I'm more nervous than anybody else you could have said.
It's funny you mentioned kind of that outside play. It seems like that's kind of what the Dolphins are going to have to do anyways. But going back, you mentioned Tavondre Sweat, and I know that through the draft process, he was a very, very polarizing figure in the draft process. People that had it, that wanted the Dolphins to take him at 21, and people that literally didn't want the Dolphins to take him if he lasted the 7th round. How has Sweat been, and how does he fit in that middle of the Titans defense?
He's been a stud. He's been really good, especially week 1. He was one of the best D linemen in the league and sentence, and then he's been one of the top performing rookies. Been our best rookie for sure. Actually JT Latham and him have both been really good. But I mean, the dude eats up space. He can move well for 367 pounds. But he eats up. He's going to take on a double team, especially this week. They're going to line him up over Brewer and say, Brewer, deal with this. And Brewer, again, I know, can, right? He's going to get pushed back. You're going to have to double him, or you're going to leave Jeffrey Simmons one-on-one. You're going to leave the extra guy and get him double. And you're giving Harold Landry and Arden Key and some of these pass rushers. We're going to send backers at you. We're going to blitz. So he's been what we asked for so far. I mean, you just hope he can keep it up. Is this humidity down here going to be a little different for him? Who knows, especially after the storm. So we'll see how he is conditioning-wise, but he's played about the amount of snaps you hope from him. He's been eating up space. He's been making huge plays. He made a couple arm over plays, and he just gets in the backfield and ruins a play by himself. And him and Jeff Simmons next to each other. It's in my opinion, it's a top 5 interior D lineman duo in the league. It's just they're two strong dudes that you're not going to move backwards.
So the obvious answer is when we talk about position groups that the Titans can exploit to give the Dolphins fits. The obvious is the interior of the defensive line.
Yeah.
Do you see another spot on the field on either side of the ball that you're like, wow, yeah, this is if the Titans do this, they'll probably have a very successful Monday night?
Well, I hope. I would say just going against a quarterback who hasn't really been around the system too much. You would hope that last week I thought we got a little too straightforward on money downs. Like we were giving Malik a lot of man coverage blitz looks, which is what we want to do as a defense. We want to pressure you. We got great blitzing linebackers like Kenneth Murray, Ernest Jones, and all that. But I felt like when you give a guy who's not a great processor of the game, you don't want to just give him straight man and tell him this is where you're going to go with the ball, right? You want to try and disguise a little more. So I'm hoping we do something similar with Tyler Huntley, whether or not. But I think really that's the bigger advantage we got is just that interior D-line. Our other D-line in general is solid. We haven't been getting a whole lot of pressures, but we got enough guys to get there, especially our offensive line. Out Teron is nothing crazy, right? Teron, even when he's healthy,
he's not.
Right.
Looks like it looks like Kendall Lamb's going to start.
Okay, there you go. See, even then, so it's one of those things where you'd hope we can get some pressure with 4 and kind of keep Tyler Huntley in the pocket. Don't have to pressure Fritz too much. Just give him different looks, but we will send Kenneth. Kenneth will get a sack or 2. Ernest Jones, same thing. But I think that's really our big advantage is just that whole defensive front 7.
It's interesting because the Dolphins, one of the biggest complaints about the Dolphins at this point, and something we've talked about endlessly, is it seems like Mike McDaniel is overcomplicating the playbook right now.
Yeah.
They're running a ton of motion, and they're running a ton of motion that just does nothing and doesn't serve any purpose. Do you think that Mike McDaniel, as a coach, as an offensive coach, that him having to simplify the playbook for a guy like Tyler Huntley is almost an advantage for him? So with the weapons that the Dolphins have, they can kind of go back to playing just simple football?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I do because, I mean, think about it, we've done it this year. We had a lot of stuff in and we kind of condensed it for our quarterback, and it's worked out for him really well, and he's performing well. I think that's going to help. It kind of stops you from outsmarting yourself. Like you said, like I always talk about OCs always try to outsmart themselves and do the next thing. You got to just find a thing that works and go at it, go at it, go at it, go at it. I think that's something he'll kind of try to think about this game. What does Tyler do well? Let's focus on that. Maybe a wrinkle here and there, but you know what I mean. He's got now, or he could go the opposite way and say we gotta over scheme everything. But I don't think that's the case. I think you just throw the ball to Tyreek and throw the ball to Waddle and see what happens.
McDaniel is a guy that does like to overcomplicate the scheme, so it'll be interesting to see if he does something like that. How is it from a running backs, a wide receiver standpoint, from a skill position? You're learning this playbook kind of the whole way through, and now 10 days before a game, it's all right. We're condensing everything and almost theoretically starting over. Is that a hard change, or are these guys pros and that's something that
they're pros. They got all the time in the world to do it. But also, I don't think it's necessarily starting over. It's finding the stuff you've done well, the stuff that you base your whole offense off of, and just mastering those things. Like, what have we done now? We've mastered about 7 pass plays and 3 run plays, right? That's what we do. So now then you package that in all different ways. So as long as McDaniel can find his, now in the NFL could probably a little bit more, but he finds those 15 to 20 plays that they've mastered, and then just package it all in different ways and make it look different when it's all the same stuff, he'll be fine.
So on the flip side, you talk about the interior defensive line and different areas of the Titans. Is there something on the Dolphins side of the football that really worries you come Monday night?
It's not even necessarily the Dolphins side of the football. It's any team that plays against us. Whoever your left side of your defensive end is going to get to the quarterback. You know, Mo McDonald's the league sack guy in the NFL right now. He had 3 against the Titans. Do you know how many sacks the Packers had as a team before they played the Titans? 2. Do you know how many they have now? 10, because they have 8 against us. So whoever you put on our right side is going to eat. So whoever you want to put there, Calais, Jalen Phillips, heck, David Long Jr., Titans legend, right? You could put Jalen Ramsey at the end. He probably gets at least 2 pressures. It's gonna be. It's not exciting to watch the right side just get caved in. Every third down, you're going to line up everybody on line, get one-on-ones across, and then that right tackle, MPF fell on his face last game. Like, he went to pass set and fell forward on his face. It might have been the worst tackle rep of all time on the fumble. Will Levis' fumble in the fourth quarter, because he passed set and then went to punch and fell on his face. And that was, like, embarrassing to see.
We do have a question from our producer. He asked what the deal is with Treylon Burks. He was drafted as a A.J. Brown replacement. Doesn't seem like it's worked out yet. Been involved in some trade talks. Let's do a Treylon Burks.
Been hurt for his rookie year. He actually looked decent when he was healthy. The issue was he was not healthy ever. Like, his one game, he really had a breakout against the Eagles, against A.J. Brown. Kind of a cheap shot from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, knocked him out for the rest of the year. Didn't play again that season, I don't believe, his rookie year, on his only touchdown as a pro. Just consistency issues. I think a lot of it's confidence. He catches with his body way too much, and as a receiver guy, I don't like that. I always yell at our guys when they do that. The pick that we threw against that was the Jets game when not DJ Reed, he was hurt, but when Brandon Eccles caught a pick, he's 6'2", the kid's 5'10", and he goes up like this, and the guy rips it out of his hand instead of attacking with it. It's just technique issues, and really, when you look at his tape coming out, he was a screen, slants, and goes guy. He won off athleticism. He wasn't super technically sound. J-Rob loved dudes as soon as he put up 200 against Alabama, I said he's going to be a Titan, because J-Rob likes dudes who produce against, or liked dudes who could produce against those big teams. So as soon as that happened, I already knew where he was going. Same deal with A.J. Brown. He put up like 200 on or 150 on Bama, ended up being a Titan, right? It worked out with A.J. Brown. It hasn't worked out with him. So I think it's just a technique issue, and it's a confidence issue. And every time he kind of gets that confidence going, he gets hurt. I think it just keeps happening. This year, he just hasn't built the confidence. We keep playing him. He's been playing more snaps than he actually's got the most snaps on our team besides maybe Ridley at receiver. And he's just got like 3 catches all year,
Is D-Hop hurt, or is he just old?
He was hurt. He actually, it said he tore his MCL or he sprained it. He had a knee injury. Was definitely limited the first couple weeks. He still had 7 for like 85 and a touchdown last week. So I think he's kind of rounding into form now. He's been kind of limited in practice, just trying to heal up. So played a lot better. Having 2 guys on the outside that can win, and Boyd has been solid when he's got his opportunities. So being able to kind of phase Burks out and replace with D-Hop is going to be huge.
So you mentioned on a lot of third downs, pressure coming from that right side for Levis. As a quarterback guy, does that excuse any of the big issues he's had late in games, or is it a combination, or is it, as an NFL quarterback, he's just got to be better?
I mean, it's hard because you know you're going to get beat. And when you get the pressure, you got to do what? You got to make quick decisions. We talk about that with our guy all the time. You got to make quick decisions. And he's been actually pretty solid with them. It's just the time when that first look isn't open is when something might happen. And he's got to get that thing out quick. You can go look at the tape, man. These guys they're going to get beat. And so it's hard to really say, is Levis bad or what? He's made some horrible decisions. Do not get me wrong, but it's been a very much like it's hard to really get a read on how good he is.
Do you think that let's say we move forward, the season doesn't really improve for the Titans? They win a couple games, they lose a couple games, they continue kind of the way it goes right now. It's the end of the season, you're running the Titans. Do you look for a new guy? You're likely be picking near, let's say, in the 3 to 5 range in the draft? Or do you want to build the team up around Levis and see if he can be successful?
That's kind of was the idea this offseason, and the right side of the O-line has not been a feasible NFL product, right? So it's hard to say. You'd have to kind of go in and see where your board looks like in the draft. If there's a tackle prospect that you think is above any quarterback guy, you got to go get that guy and say, okay, let's run it back with him. And maybe, or if there's that guy that you love at quarterback in there, like a Shador or an Ewers or whoever, Jackson Dart, whatever, who ends up being that guy for you, you kind of got to go take a shot with him. I think that the O-line has still been unviable for quarterback play. So I don't want to put, as much as I crap on Levis at practice, I don't want to put this on him just because it's so hard to say when these guys are just getting. Go look at these pressure against the Packers, what we're giving up. Levis is not helping himself. Don't get me wrong, because he's making the wrong decision consistently under pressure. But when you're under pressure that much, it's hard to be a viable player.
Yeah. Another one from our producer there. If the Dolphins win on Monday night and Tennessee drops to 0-4, even outside of Levis, are there guys on the team as we get closer to the trade deadline that you expect them to start looking to trade?
It's hard to say just because a lot of the guys who would be trade candidates are guys we just brought in, like a Calvin Ridley, like a L'Jarius Sneed, something like that. Maybe some smaller pieces, but I wouldn't expect necessarily a fire sale. I think they will. I don't want to say stick out. We'll be going into our bye at that point. Maybe try to renew some things there and review and reassess. But maybe a couple weeks after that, I could see maybe a piece or two moving. But Traylon Burks will probably be gone at that point, and someone could try that reclamation project, or maybe
I'd like the Dolphins to take a shot.
Maybe a D-Hop. If he says, "Hey, I want to win," right? So. But I wouldn't necessarily say after week 4 you make those decisions just because you have the bye week and maybe you could turn around and get to 9-8 at that point. Where I'm going, if you can figure out, it's really just going to be, can we figure out the offensive line? Can we figure out, can we give our quarterback a chance to make smart decisions consistently?
Yeah, our producer wants any O lineman that exists.
You don't want anybody, unless it's JT Latham, Skronsky, or three I mentioned. You don't want to.
How has L'Jarius Sneed been?
He's been good. I know the PFF grades haven't been super kind to him, but he shut down DJ Moore. He had like 2 catches for 19 yards against him specifically. He's been about as advertised. Yeah, he got beat by Garrett Wilson against the Jets on a big 3rd down, but it was a man play, bunched up, and it was schemed up, and he was there. It was just a great throw and catch by a Hall of Famer and a kid who's really, really good. So he's been about, not necessarily the best corner in the league like he had been last year, but he's been a huge upgrade on what we had last year. He's no Christian Fulton, I'll tell you that much. So he's been good, but you pay a guy a lot of money. I hope he get a turnover or something, but he's been about it. He's been good in the run game, so no qualms about Snead. He's not been a bust or anything like that.
So one of my worst memories as a Dolphin fan, and there have been a lot of bad ones over the years, but the people that were at last year's Titans game with me, leaving the stadium.
With you, but I was there.
Leaving the stadium was it was so deflating. And I think that when Dolphin fans saw that we play Tennessee again Monday night early in the season, even without the season's gone, this seems like a really big game for the Dolphins, just to not be last year's team. And kind of, even though you can't right that wrong because that would have caused a home playoff game and things like that, and who knows what the difference of trajectory would be. But I think that this is a game for Dolphins fans. They feel like it's almost like a get-right game. So for that to not happen, so I want you to fill in the blank. If we Tuesday morning are talking, shooting the shit about the game, and the Titans win the game, what does the game look like in the hypothetical world that the Titans win?
1 or less turnover from the offense, 1 turnover from the defense. We have the worst turnover margin by not an insignificant amount. It's absolutely ridiculous at this point. I think it's 12-2 or 1, and one of those turnovers was a muffed kickoff against the Bears that Velus Jones just hit off his knee and it rolled right to one of our guys. So I think the way we win is one or less turnover from our offense and more than one turnover from our defense. If we get the turnover right, you can say that every game, right? We want to turnover, but I mean it's been legitimately like insurmountable for us. And you count the 2 block punts that we've had, and we've had I think a muff as well. So if we can just get turnovers and not give them up, we can win this game. That's really all it's come to. I mean, last week we had 3, right? Fumble and a pick or 2 picks. So.
For me, for the Dolphins, it's as long as Mike McDaniel doesn't outsmart himself,
which he's liable to do.
Which he's 100% liable to do. He's struggled from a getting play calls in fast enough standpoint. He's struggled from a situational standpoint. He's done a lot of things that you almost need to see him go into a game and prove it.
And at the end of the day, I was listening to some really smart football guys talk about this, trying to just kind of think about how I want to call plays. And it's a defensive guy, and he was saying, when you come out the game, the offense is going to show you something they've never seen on film, and then they're going to go back to what they know. So what's going to happen is he might come out with this super simple version of Tyler Huntley and work to his strengths and everything that they like, but can the Titans weather that storm for the first quarter or 2 couple drives? And then if you can get a handle on that, they'll go back to what they know on film, and that's going to be where we can maybe take advantage because he's going to start going through his 75 motions and having Tyreek Hill do a cartwheel over top of Tyler Huntley before the snap to try and confuse people, which would confuse me, honestly.
Do you what are your thoughts as a coach and as somebody who actively calls plays? What would be your thoughts on adding head coaching duties to what you already do, and what are your thoughts on NFL coaches being head coaches and also calling offensive plays?
So in the high school level, I personally, if I was a head coach, would not want to call plays. I wouldn't, just because there's a lot of other stuff you have to worry about. The NFL level, you have more time to kind of deal with those other things, and you have more personnel. You have people who can tell you, here, take a time out here. Hey, we want to review this, right? In the high school level, you're kind of doing that all on your own, right? So the NFL level, it's a little different. On one hand, I like the head coach calling plays or being the play caller because it's going to be consistency as long as he's successful, right? If we keep Will Levis and if we get some success this year, he will have the same offense next year. It's not going to change, right? So on that hand, I like it. And like I said, you have so many other guys that help you with those quote-unquote head coaching roles, but also you kind of do, you got so much going on, you kind of would like that guy to be kind of dip his head. It just depends who you have around you, though, too. If you got a really smart defensive guy, you could say, you are the head coach of the defense, and I'll pop my head in here and there, but at the end of the day, you trust that guy to handle it. Great. If you got a guy that maybe you're a little less sure about, maybe you want to try to give up those roles and help him out. So I don't want to give an answer because obviously I've never been a head coach as a football player. I mean, outside like a middle school team, right? And at that point, you are every coach. You're obviously defense coordinator, specialties coordinator, water boy, equipment manager. So it's hard to say, but I mean, I don't necessarily mind it as long as you have the right people around you and people that you trust helping you make decisions.
Now, you mentioned it, and my first thought when you were talking about dipping your hand into defense was back when Adam Gase was the head coach of the Dolphins. There were times that the defense was on the field, and I literally saw him with his back turned to the field, back with the offense, talking to the offense. Do you think that you are liable for an oversight on the other side of the ball? Like if you're more of an offensive coach as a head coach and calling plays, do you think you're more likely to have things slip on the defensive side of the ball, or is that just mostly kind of you got to trust the people that are handling it?
Yeah, you got to trust. You hire those people for a reason. You don't hire them to micromanage them. You hire them because you think they're good at their job, right? Our head coach does a great job of that. He doesn't tip his hand on the offensive side of the ball at all, right? It's kind of whatever I think, and he calls the plays on defense, right? So he's not really worried about what we're doing. So, if you hire that guy, you bet you hired him because you think he's good at his job. So that's what I think. You just kind of trust those people. So, like I said, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Would I do it? I'm not sure if I would. But at the NFL level, again, like I said, you got a lot more people around you to kind of help you with all those different roles, So,
speaking of the Titans coach, he's been very, very vocal about the Will Levis situation.
Oh, yeah.
And as we kind of come up on close to the end here, what do you, number one, as a coach, feel about him being so public about Will Levis's struggles? And number two, do you think that kind of speaks to the possibility of a change being made, or do you think that's just more motivation trying to get him going?
I think he knows how Will Levis is, and I don't think he necessarily dislikes Will Levis, but the mistakes have been obvious, right? It's not like nobody's watching. Like, it's not like these are not nationally broadcast games, right? So it's not like you can say, "Oh no, it was fine. He just tried to underhand a pass that would have lost yards anyway. We've done the same thing for a turnover. Like, it's fine. Who cares, right?" No, it's been very obvious. So I think it's just motivation. And Will Levis is a guy who is hard on himself. And I think he's kind of a guy that, I know his grandpa used to coach him, and he was super hard on him. So I think that's kind of how he responds. And also, I mean, we've been the same exact people once at a time where a guy just makes a boneheaded play and you're just like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, what the hell? And he's even spoke on it. He's like, look, do I necessarily want to react like that? No, but they got the best of me in that moment, and like I want to try and be better because I don't want to put the blame on it. I don't want to put the spotlight on him and sell him out, but sometimes, it just happens. So
all right. So 2 questions for you. Number 1, what is your prediction for Monday night? And you can be as biased as you want. And number 2, give the people 1 player on the Titans that will score a touchdown on Monday night.
Okay, so my prediction is, seeing as the Titans have only lost 1 game I've ever been to of theirs, and it was the longest football game in history with the 17-hour lightning delay. I'm gonna go Titans win because they don't lose when I show up. Last year we should have lost.
I will do something to derail him to make sure he has trouble getting in that set.
We should not have won that game. We gave you guys 14 points and won that game. So somehow we're going to pull it out. I don't know how. I'll say Titans win. And you know what? Just because we haven't scored 30 points in over like 1,000 days or something like that, or like 600, like in 2 years. I think the last time we scored 30 points was against the Packers in like 2021. I'm going to say we scored 31. Wow. Now, do I actually believe that with any sense of my heart? No. This team has a way of surprising me in ways that don't make any sense, good or bad. So I'll say Titans 31-17, and I'm going to be wrong. And it's going to be what I really think will happen will be like 17-14 and a game-winning field goal from Nick Folk from 42 yards on the right hash. You can book it right now.
Titans touchdown score.
Titans touchdown score on Tony Pollard. Pollard, we're going to run left at one point. He's going to break one for a touchdown. If you want a more off the route, like you want to try and make some money, take Josh Wiley touchdown.
Josh Wiley touchdown. You heard it.
If you want to make some money, take a Josh Wiley touchdown.
Okay.
He's been getting more involved with the offense. Had 4 catches last game. He's 6'7". So he's our 1A, 1B tight end with Chig. So if you want a more off the wall prediction, it might win you some money. Take Josh Wiley touchdown.
So I've been known to over pick games. And what I mean by that is picking scores that are much higher than the actual result. I think the Dolphins find a way to win. I'm going to say the Dolphins win the game 20-16. I think that the Dolphins score 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. I think the Titans score 1 touchdown and 3 field goals. There will be a late drive that we think the Titans will score to win, and the Dolphins' defense will find a way to get a stop late.
No, they won't find a way to get a stop. Will Levis will throw them.
Will Levis will throw them the ball.
And that is probably the more likely scenario. And if you just look at this objectively, but the Titans don't lose when I go, so I got to pick them.
Yeah. So we are 28 minutes and 25 seconds in. I was just reminded by my producer that because Brett is not here, I have to plug that he is a Michigan fan. He found a way to tell Jim Nagy in the first 19 seconds of the episode that he was a Michigan fan. But this is not Michigan today, and Brett is not here to defend himself.
Jalen Harrell needs to start playing.
He is somewhere on a beach watching Blink-182 currently. And I am here to plug the UCF Knights, who are going to defend the Bounce House today against Dion and Colorado. Do you think, before we get off here, as he makes his Oregon symbol, I think you're supposed to do like quack, quack or something, no?
No, you just kind of do this and Sko Ducks.
Okay.
Go Ducks.
Okay. Is Dion the coach of Colorado next season?
Yes.
Yes? Even with Shador gone and even with Travis Hunter gone?
Colorado or FSU.
Colorado.
There's my prediction. Colorado or FSU.
Okay. And who's the coach of the Florida Gators?
Florida Gators next year. Let's take an off-the-wall one. Let's go with let me really put my thinking cap on here. Let me really.
Your thinking cap went on, and you went off of the screen with your thinking cap on.
Oh my God! So, okay, I'm gonna give you an off-the-wall one here, just because I'm that guy. Let's go Gus Malzahn.
Wow, I would be so happy if Gus Malzahn was the coach of the Gators. I would go up to Orlando, pick him up, and I would drive him to Gainesville myself.
If UCF wins
please.
listen, this is my prediction. If UCF wins the Big 12,
Which there's a shot right now. And I would like to say there's a tweet out there where I said that RJ Harvey was going to win Big 12 Player of the Year. He's a stud. He worked on his body so much over the summer. He looks lightning quick, and he still has that power. He's an unbelievable running back.
Or the Canes D coordinator whose name I can't think of right now.
Or the Canes D coordinator whose name he can't think of. Right
yeah,
now.
We'll just call him Jim Bob.
Yeah, Jim Bob Cooter. Wasn't that a coach of the Lions?
That was.
Yeah. Okay. So Jim Bob Cooter is how we finish this episode. Addie, I thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure talking football.
Anytime.
Everybody, good luck. Be safe this weekend. Bet responsibly. And thank you for joining the list.
Josh Wiley, anytime touchdown.
Josh Wiley, anytime touchdown. For Mr. S, for Zach, for Brett, for Donovan, I'm Jordan. Thank you for joining the list.
Bye.